Our guest this morning is the chairperson of the Free Kenya movement, Bob Njagi. He's an activist. He's in the studio. Bob, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you for having me on the show.
Karibu sana.
Good morning, City.
Morning, Bob.
And morning, Anki.
Hola.
Karibu sana, Bob.
Asante.
Now, you shot into the limelight in the last couple of weeks, right? With the Gen Z demonstrations and the general demonstrations happening in the country, and then that abduction when you went missing for so long, and people were all over talking about where is Bob Njagi, where are the two brothers, the Langdon brothers, where are you? One morning you just appear somewhere on the side of the road and we say, okay, Bob has been found. So you're here so you can take us through all that ordeal. Yesterday you had wanted to address a press conference, and you had a couple of run-ins with the security agencies from one to another, but we'll get into that. Sawa. First is to welcome you with the day's proverb. As you know, City will give you the proverb. Your job is to listen to him and give us your interpretation of the proverb. Sawa.
Sure.
City, the proverbs for this week are from which country?
The Kingdom of Morocco.
Aha.
It's a monarchy. They have a king, not president, not prime minister, king.
Yes.
In Kiswahili, mfalme. And this is not one of those ceremonial types who are just there to be seen. This fellow actually has real power. Kabza. Yes. This fellow, Mohammed VI, His Majesty. Okay. This fellow, he is a commander of the faithful. He's commander of the Moroccan Armed Forces. He's head of the Supreme Council of the Judiciary. He chooses who the prime minister should be from the party that has won the elections. He can remove ministries as he sees fit. He can also terminate parliament. Okay, now, see, I said he has power. You would think about that one. I'm sure there are many African presidents who salivate when they hear this. Feel, if only. Sorry. We're a democracy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you mambo ya kingship. Kwisha. Proverb. Fill his stomach and he will forget his country.
Fill his stomach and he will forget his country. Bob, what do you think this proverb is saying?
I think that sounds more of a Kenyan proverb than Moroccan. It applies more here.
How so?
Because we are in a state whereby corruption has become the norm. Projects are diverted, and those who are entrusted with overseeing the implementation of such projects end up with the monies in their stomachs. So I say that proverb applies to the Kenyan context very well, in my view.
So the way to capture them is just feed their stomachs, fill their stomachs, and they will forget about the country, the people. They'll start serving you.
Okay.
It's a very direct one. City, I don't know why you brought this proverb particularly today.
I did not bring the proverb. In fact, if you must know, these proverbs, I chose them in April.
Oh. So it's just
8th of April 2024. That is when I prepared this.
So you didn't even know it was going to fall on this day, this proverb. Timing.
I did not time it for today.
Hey.
It just happens we're looking at countries of the Maghreb, and Morocco is one of those countries.
Interesting.
Yes. So it's not that I sat, thought, looked at all the proverbs that I could choose, said, wacha hii ni dunge hii.
Siku ya mazingira.
Okay.
No.
All right, Bob. The Free Kenya movement. You first tell us about the Free Kenya movement, and then many people would like to know who Bob Njagi is. So I think let's start with Bob Njagi. Who is Bob Njagi?
Before I say that, I first want to wish all Kenyans a happy Mazingira Day. I think we cannot overemphasize the importance of greening our country. I remember the president began with a very ambitious project of planting 15 billion trees. I don't know what happened to that initiative. They don't talk about it anymore. I would expect today should have been one day when all Kenyans would have been mobilized to go out there and do what is supposed to be done, plant a tree. even in the studio here. Before you come here, I should have planted a tree.
I did.
Yeah,
That's why we started the show a bit.
Yeah, we were planting trees.
yeah, it's important. Secondly, I want to say thank you first to all the persons who have come out to call for my release. I cannot go on the show without first beginning to say thank you to the media who highlighted this ordeal. I want to thank the Law Society of Kenya. They were very forefront in fighting for justice. The judiciary, through the Justice Lawrence Mugambi, he was very steadfast in the wheels of justice. The human rights organizations, the Defenders Coalition, who came out boldly to put the government on notice. I cannot forget my family, who went through a very difficult moment, looking for me everywhere. So I owe my life to Kenyans for being here. I say thank you. Bob Njagi is a 47-year-old man. I have 4 kids. I just got my last born the other day when I was abducted, a baby girl by the name Isabella, named after my mom. I live in Kitengela, and I'm a businessman, an entrepreneur. I'm also a leader of this FreeKenya movement. I have been in politics for quite some time. Before going into the FreeKenya movement, I used to be the Deputy Director of Elections for ODM, deputizing Junet Mohammed for a period of 9 years. So I have been on that side of politics for a while, but I opted to go independent due to on a matter of principle at some point. That is about 6 years back in 2018. We came together to form this movement as a result of the 2018 finance bill, which introduced 16% VAT on fuel at the time. At that time, there was a handshake between the opposition and government, that is ODM and Jubilee. And both members of parliament of both houses passed a very unpopular bill. At that point, we realized that parliament has already been captured by the state. And what we decided to do as Kenyans is to come together and form this movement that we'd be able to advance changes both in the constitutional process, political reforms, economic reforms, and social reforms. And that's what we have been doing. We have advanced many issues, some through litigation in court, by challenging bad laws. We have been actively participating in a referendum, which is an expression of direct democracy, whereby we are collecting 1 million signatures to push together a popular initiative to amend the Constitution of Kenya so as to deal with some of the structural and systemic issues that the country is faced with. We believe that some of the issues are so deep into the structure of the basic structure of the Constitution that we cannot have serious change without relooking at the current Constitution. And therefore, we have an active referendum ongoing, and that is one of the reasons why I have been targeted by the state, because of the potential of this popular initiative that it portends. Because all the time we go out to collect signatures, they stop us from the collection of signatures. Because this potentially, a constitution is about a balance of power between those who are governed and those who govern. And therefore the state would not want to see a popular initiative, especially one that carries the interest of the people at heart. So that is one of the main reasons we have been targeted, if I must say. We have a movement that is across the country. We were very much involved in the protest, the anti-finance bill 2024. And I remember that time I had an interview with KTN on KTN Studios, and we put the government on notice that the way things are, people are so much agitated, and you need to put a hold on this finance bill, review it, and then bring it back. And that fell on deaf ears. You saw what the young people did. And on the 25th of June, they broke into parliament declaring that they've had enough of this institution that is passing bad laws. Unfortunately, to date, we're still seeing the same parliament operating, in oblivion of what the
was
people
happening then.
Yes.
So as I gather, lately you've been doing two things. One, you have been sensitizing people about this popular initiative to a constitutional amendment that you have been pushing. And also you've been participating in the calls for reforms in, for example, in the finance bill. You are actively participating in change of our governance and board representative governance. You are actively participating in it, right?
Yes.
So let's just quickly jump into when you are abducted one evening. You're going home, you're in a matatu, and then police come and abduct you. What had you been doing that day, and what had you been doing the previous day?
The previous day, I had received a phone call from Honorable Jimmy Njagi, and he was alarmed because he had been summoned by the police he had been summoned to the Nairobi area police. So he asked me to accompany him in solidarity. As I was there, he was arrested. He was taken to Kamkunji police station. That day, we had already called for protest in the following day on the 20th. Right? So, and people were ready to come out.
What were the protests about?
The demos were still about pro-good governance. That's what we're talking about. Pro-good governance. We want accountability. All right? We want, the largesse that has been flaunted by government officials to end. Right? So there are genuine reasons. The president has violated this current constitution in many occasions. Right? These have already been proven in the court of law. When you have the housing levies been
deemed
unconstitutional, but they continue to tax Kenyans, with impunity. So there are so many reasons why we were on the streets. You saw what they did. They actually changed government, the executive, but brought in the same people.
The CS?
The CSs, right?
Okay.
That was part of the agitation, which the Gen Zs and others were calling out for.
So you'd already planned your demo for the 20th?
On the 20th, yes.
And then you got this call from Jimmy?
I got a call from Jimmy. I went to see him and found him at the Kamkunji station. I was there with Wakili Willis and the family. So we camped there till around 10 in the evening and realized that he's not going to be released. And therefore, we agreed that we'll convene the following day in court. I was in the company with my colleagues from the FreeKenya movement, and they dropped me off at a bus terminus where I picked a bus that actually goes along Ombaso Road. On reaching Mlolongo, the bus came to a halt and a few passengers were alighting. It was then that some men who were masked, hooded, they didn't identify themselves, but they came into the matatu shouting, "Huyu ako na bunduki," while pointing at me, "Huyu ako na bunduki," So I was so alarmed because I don't operate a gun. In any case, I don't own one, and I don't actually like guns, so to speak. And I told them that, no, mimi sina bunduki, my name is Bob Njagi, so I started shouting so that to raise alarm. And the passengers didn't know what to do because they were in a situation whereby they think I could be a thief, according to the assertions from these men. So they don't know. But some of them, I think, realized that they figured it out.
Yeah.
And they tried to record, but the cops were beating them up, slapping them. Anybody who tried to record was being assaulted.
And you're saying these people were hooded?
They were masked.
Okay.
And
so they're wearing a mask?
And they had caps. Some had caps on them. Some had.
So you only have the eyes to look at.
You only see the face here.
But you also refer to them as cops just now.
Yeah, because they came in as such.
Okay.
Did they say we are police officers?
They did say so.
When they boarded the matatu?
They did say so, yes. Even the bus conductor actually said, "Wacheni polisi wafanye kazi yao." The bus conductor shouted, "Wacheni polisi wafanye kazi yao." So everybody knew,
these are
polisi. So I surrendered myself. Somehow I struggled with them. I did struggle with them for about 5 minutes, but they overpowered me, put me inside a car, and that was the beginning of everything now. Yeah.
How far was the car parked from the Matatu stage? Did you walk a long distance from the Matatu to
I don't want to relive this story so much.
Yeah.
You know, it's still traumatizing to me. Yeah? Yeah. But the car was just in front of the Matatu. I understand there was another one that was behind also, blocking the Matatu. There were 2 cars. One in the front, one in the back. So I was taken to the front car, put in the seat behind, with 5 men inside, and seriously assaulted.
What make of vehicle was it?
It was a white vehicle. It was a Hyundai. I could see the sign is a H in the back, with tinted windows.
5 people inside the vehicle.
Yeah, the driver, co-driver, and 3 men at the back.
So you're the 6th.
I'm the 6th. I was put down. You see where you put your feet?
Yes.
My head was there, and my feet were in the boot, squeezing me everywhere, punching me up, slapping me, hitting me hard, subduing me completely to submission, you know. And I was not defending myself. I told them, what is it?
Did they answer?
Yeah, did they give
They
an
couldn't
answer?
answer.
Okay.
Did
They only said, I don't want to talk about much, but yeah, they said a lot of things. By 2 p.m. you'll be in Riviera. By 2 a.m. in the morning.
This is what they said to you?
Yes. By 2 a.m. in the morning you'll be in Riviera. So I said, fine, I only have 2 hours to live. It was around 11.
What belongings did you have when you were being picked up? I presume that, of course, you have a wallet, you have your phone. Did you have anything else that you were carrying?
Just my phone.
Just your phone?
Just my phone.
And, of course, they took the phone immediately.
Yeah.
So you had no way of communicating with anybody to say, I have been arrested or I have been picked up and I'm going to this station. You did not
My
know
phone
where
was
you were
even
going.
off. It had gone off. Yeah.
Owing to the events of the day.
Phone had gone off, yeah.
So maybe if I just, because clarity is important, they get you in the Matatu, they accuse you of having a gun, you declare that you're Bob Njagi and you're unarmed. They insist on taking you to a different car. Now, these particular ones that you said were masked and, of course, with hoodies and caps, they identified themselves as police. The conductor said, "Wacha police afanye kazi yake." You're transferred to another car. Do these particular ones in this, the 5 men in the white car, do they as well identify themselves at all, or it's just assault? And they tell
they
you
didn't identify themselves.
They did identify themselves.
Yes, but they drove us for about an hour. We drove for about an hour. Came to a stop. I was moved from that vehicle to a second vehicle that was waiting, which had about 4 men in it. Transferred to that vehicle. I was blindfolded. I was handcuffed in the back. Put in the second car. Driven off around for another half an hour until we got to where now I have been for the last those 32 days. Some building somewhere.
Yesterday, when you spoke to the media, you were just defining bits and pieces of those 32 days. First, I said for a couple of days you were handcuffed, with your hands to the back, and you're in this room, you're alone, and then they come and give you 2 meals a day, you said?
1 meal a day.
1 meal a day. But were they coming to question you? Or are you having conversations with these people who had picked you up?
Never.
So nobody's talking to you?
Nobody.
For how many days?
32 days. I was in solitary.
They never came to question you and ask you, what are you doing? What do you know about the demonstrations?
Nothing.
That's strange. And when they come to give you food, what do they say?
Nothing. They just open the door, put a cup of tea, close the door.
Interesting.
And, lunch hour, put a plate of food, close the door.
And the room is dark throughout?
And the room is dark throughout, day and night. And I'm handcuffed day and night for 32 days.
The handcuffs never came off?
32 days, never came off?
Never came off. You see the marks here?
That is, I'm sitting closer to him. I think I can see them. Okay. The interesting bit, though, is you have said that this followed your... because I think I personally had you, in studio at that time when the Gen Z protests were just beginning. Okay, I think he needs some time. Yeah. And they don't get to actually interrogate you on, number one, the constitutional reforms you are pushing for. Neither does anyone interrogate you on the arrests. To this point, even as you're here right now, you have no idea why, and there was no conversation in the 32 days as to no interrogation. No one sought any answers. No one warned you to stop anything in the 32 days. This is what...
No.
There's nobody.
I haven't been spoken to by anyone. I couldn't access those. It was incommunicado.
Okay.
Incommunicado. Complete silence.
This you call psychological torture.
Yes.
You shared.
Psychological.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also physical, because I was underfed. I lost so much weight within such a short time. You know. I think they were trying to break us down. Yeah.
Actually, one of the things that happens when you're in confinement, the neurons in your brain shrink. And research has shown that it shrinks up to 20%. So it affects not just the way you think, it affects your speech. That's just the beginning. And then you are also prone to PTSD. You are also prone to panic attacks. Your whole psychological welfare or well-being is completely reorganized. So the person who went into confinement is not the same person who comes out.
Not the person who comes out.
No, the person who comes out is somebody who actually requires mental attention, mental health attention. This is somebody who actually needs to be treated. Because the whole idea behind solitary confinement is supposed to be for a very short period. That's the purpose. But if it's confined to something like 30 days, unfortunately, it can have permanent effects on the person. Yes.
I know that I will interrogate this maybe later after the break, but Bob mentioned in the press yesterday that, and of course you'll give us clarity, that you will forgive and you have forgiven the abductors, but you're going to move forward and sue the government for what you term inhumane treatment. I think that really came out in your press, and would love to understand then this angle that you have taken and on what basis you will be grounding this suit on. I think that's where I'd want to just cue it for now.
We are sorry that we are asking questions that take you back into a very dark moment for you, but please bear with us, because many people, when they hear this, they just assume, okay, huyu alishikwa, alitoka. You don't count 32 days, because in the 32 days you've just been waking up and doing your things, but somebody has been waking up and not knowing what is going to happen in the next minute. For 32 days, it's torturous. And there are many others who have not been able to speak. You are strong enough to have gone through this and been able to speak. So please bear with us. Speak. Use the opportunity to speak as much as you can. Where it's uncomfortable, tell us, yes, this, let me know, dive in there. So, Anki Doris, you wanted to ask about what now you said yesterday. You want to take action. Go ahead.
Yeah, and of course you mentioned that there are several other families that have lost loved ones, and you're calling out the government to compensate these families. Abductions, this is not the first time we're hearing about abductions, but it's very good that for me personally, I'm getting to actually interact with you. At least one person who has said they were abducted. And I want to understand then your inspiration, behind this suit. You're planning to sue the government. Maybe you could just clarify on what accounts or grounds you want to sue the government. And are there other people who've been abducted that you also experienced or encountered? And what is your information or situation around the abductions that you are particularly talking about in the country?
Well, I said that we're going to seek justice, not just for myself, but for many other Kenyans. One of the things that we plan to do is to initiate a class action suit against the state for all persons who have been killed during these demonstrations, and there is evidence, sufficient evidence to show that government, through the use of live ammunition, caused the deaths of tens of young men and women during the anti-finance bill protest. In my own area where I come from, in Kitengela, we lost Kefa Ouma, Shakil Obiego, and Charles Owino, whom we buried. 2 of them were shot. I personally was the person who was carrying the corpse as during the demos. And we went to the police station with the cops, and we left the corpse there. And they picked that body, took it to city mortuary, and left it there, claiming that it has been taken from Juja. Somebody was hit by a car, okay, and the body was taken from Juja to city mortuary. Yet, the young man, whom we have all the evidence, photos, videos, was shot dead. And he was just standing next to me in the protest. If you look at the pictures, he was just there next to me. I was just next to him when he was shot. So there is serious evidence of crimes against humanity. And Latiff, if we don't take action as a people, not as Bob Njagi, this is where we're calling on all Kenyans to come together, you know, and put together a class action suit. We have parents of those who lost their kids. They're still out here. They must be, justice must be found for them. Otherwise, we cannot continue in an endless cycle where people lose their lives and others continue as if nothing happened. We're sacrificing the lives of many young people for the good of a few.
When you say class action suit, what exactly is that?
It's to bring together all the persons who've been victims and put a case together.
Jointly?
Jointly.
Okay.
All right, so what we need is organizations like the LSK to come together and invite the families, all right, of all those persons who have died, and jointly put a class action suit. And that is going to be the beginning of redemption, because unless the state is held liable, because there's clear laws as to how demonstrations should happen. You notify the police give you security. Okay, in the event of a protest going out of hand, the police have a capability to control the situation without using too much force. And that is by the law. So how do we put a balance of power? Do we continue, Latiff, and say, forget about what everything happened, we sweep it under the carpet? No. I will be the voice and the face of the people who are going to be seeking this justice, not just for myself, but especially for the victims who died.
Have you reached out to the families of those who died?
Yes.
And are they willing? Are they willing to join up in this class action?
They're scared, though. They're scared. Yes, but they're willing. But I assume that's the role of the civil society, where they come in. Okay, they come in to fill those gaps in the society whereby they give a hand to this. Normally, they are the marginalized people in society because they've come out to the streets to say that there's a problem. And then you kill the young people, okay? So we are organizing, even on this 20th Mashujaa Day, we shall be celebrating our heroes, all those who died on the 20th. We have 2 activities, one in Embakasi East, it's called Jacaranda. There's a young people, the Wahenga Youth Group, are organizing a vigil. And also Eric Omondi is doing something at Uhuru Park, which we shall also participate, so that first we create the awareness that indeed these young people died not in vain, and then through that we can use that as a platform to push for their compensation for their families. I don't know why government is playing hardball on this, because government has the resources, and only they should do is be human enough to cushion the families.
Is this where you draw the inspiration, sorry City, just coming to you shortly, on the Watu ni nguvu, nguvu ni watu?
That is our slogan for the FreeKenya movement.
Okay.
Because we are grounded by the people power. That's our slogan. We say, when I say people power, you say higher power. People power, Eric. Higher power. People power.
Higher power.
People power.
Higher power.
The meaning is that all sovereign power is vested in the people.
Okay.
And it's the people who should exercise this power. It should be exercised for their benefit. So we say people power, hiyo ni watu ni nguvu.
Okay.
Nguvu ni watu.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when you talk about some of the families being scared, it's with good reason. But has it occurred to you that the government can also be scared?
Of the suit.
The government can be scared by movements such as yours, because the sort of violence that has been unleashed, if your movement was violent, one could understand the reprisal by the government because they'd be responding to violence.
Yeah.
But when you respond to non-violent activity with violence, what does it tell us? It tells that you are also not just uneasy, you are afraid. And it isn't the policemen who are afraid. Policemen, these are disciplined forces. They obey orders. They are told what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as though they wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, so what shall we do today?" No, no, no. They are given instructions as to what to do. So the question you want to ask is, those who give these instructions, what are they afraid of? Because the ask was simple. We have a problem here, fix it. Mm-hmm. That was the ask. It was not a violent ask. It's just an ask. We have this problem, please explain. The response is violence. So how do you explain that response? There's incongruence.
Yeah, somebody asked me the same question, which I'm still trying to find an answer, is why Bob, why us?
Mm-hmm.
Yet we're not the only ones on the streets, I think the issue is that we have not been funded by anybody, our protest. Yet the people have come out in their numbers, responding. Whenever we call them out to do so, they come out and they are not afraid of even the police, because they come out to fight for their rights. Okay, so I think the intensity of the demos is what propelled them to take the actions that they did.
Mm. So Bob, you're the movement and of course the Kenyans who came out with you, if you're saying you're not on your own, according to you, in your observation and within your rights, you would confidently say that you have not done anything to, put the public in a position where probably they're incited to violence or to unconstitutionally, interfere with government operations. Just confidently, you would clear your name from anything of the sort?
For sure.
Okay.
We don't advocate for any violence. Our demos we've always called for peaceful but powerful demos. It can be peaceful, but doesn't mean it's not powerful.
Okay.
It's powerful in the sense of the numbers that come out. And I think that is what threatened the government due to the intensity of the and until some of them now started introducing hooligans, all right, to now cause looting, thuggery, so that the business community can then be swayed not to support the protesters, and secondly also to cause fear, especially amongst the Gen Zs, whom were not used to violence. Right? When you introduce violence in a peaceful protest, then the people who are peaceful keep away from the protest. So that's what they ended up doing, and we did not relent. We called off the demos at some days, but on other days we called them back on. So I think that was because they thought they would stop us by introducing violence, but we kept
going
the tempo.
You're confident you will get justice if you start the corridors of justice?
Even the Mau Mau, my grandfather was one. They were up against a heavy task of removing the colonizers. But if they asked themselves the same questions, would we have gotten the first liberation? No. We got the first liberation, we got the second liberation in 1992, and if we are the ones who have to struggle through the third liberation, then we are ready for it. Yes, it will not come easy, but it will come.
It will come.
It will come, but definitely.
What drives you as a person? I mean, why are you doing this? So you said you have a political bone in you, and you joined political agitation. You went into a structured party. You are an official of ODM. It's structured. It has ways of doing things. It even has ways of mobilizing funds, right?
Sure.
And then you come out of it, you go into activism without any form of that structure.
Sure.
What then? What would drive you? How do you wake up every day and you're thinking, I want to continue pushing for this? Everybody has needs, man. You have children, you have a family, you have extended family. They've got expectations of you, and you're waking up and doing these things of organizing demos and mobilizing for a constitutional amendment through popular initiative, and joining the anti-finance bill protests, and going back home. What drives you, Bob?
It's the need to see a better country, because I understand that failure to do so would only mean that we would continue to live in a country that is in a state of poverty. It's easier to fight for your country than not to fight for it. Because if we don't fight for our country, we'll have more problems to deal with. All right? You see, when we went for the protest, what happened? The finance bill was pulled back. Had we not gone out, it would be now in effect. So I think this is not something I should be doing. We should, all of us, be doing what Bob is doing. I shouldn't be an exemption. It should be the norm. That City, you too can come out. Eric, you too can come out. Anki can come out. Or you can do it within your spaces, even here in the studio.
Yeah.
You don't have to come to the streets. All right? But every citizen has a constitutional right, Article 3, to defend the Constitution. So what I'm doing, for me, is supremacy of the Constitution. And when the president and the government is violating the same Constitution, we as a people have a right to defend. That's all we are doing, is to defend the Constitution.
You know, in the 1980s, the period that led to the coup, there had been activism similar to the one we are seeing now. Then there was a coup attempt. And what is of interest during that period, there are very many individuals who are in that at that time in their youth, and they were arrested. You wouldn't know this, but our principal cabinet secretary, Musa Lydiah, was among the people who was arrested, and his father was a cabinet minister. And he wasn't arrested for a day; it was several weeks. So that was a coup attempt, and one could say there was logic behind what the government was doing, because the government had directly been threatened. But in this case, there's no one threatening to overthrow the government. They're just saying, there are things we want you to change. They're saying, look, we're not happy with this. And in fact, the conversation is a fairly soft one. But the response is what makes you ask, why is the government responding in this manner? And yet what they ask is actually a fairly straightforward ask.
For instance, before I was arrested, there's a matter we raised that is very sensitive. I don't know if I can speak about it here. We raised this matter regarding the IBC Act of 2024. I think you saw when the president signed it into law at KICC. He was standing next to the Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka at the mid of the Gen Z protest.
Yes.
We had an issue, and because we think the elections of 2027 have already been rigged through that act. Rigging of election happens, it's a process.
Before the actual voting process?
Before the voting. Actually, from the selection of the commissioners. That's where it all begins. Right now we have a tribunal of 9 people, 5 of whom will be selected from political parties, both Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, that is Raila and Ruto. It means that the commission will have, out of 7, about 5 of their proxies. The election has already been stolen. I don't know what we're waiting for. So we have to challenge this act to remove the political parties' players from the tribunal, and we are going to a constitutional court to declare it unconstitutional, null and void, because for a commission to be independent, it cannot have proxies of political parties who are participants to the same election. It's like you have a tournament for the Premier League, and then you have Arsenal and Man U choosing the referees. Who's going to win the league?
You repeated something we've said about that many times.
This is one of the reasons why I'm being targeted, because we're touching the soft spots, the areas that matter. While the rest of the country has been distracted by the constitution of an executive, but where the real chase is in the IBC, they don't want you to look at the real issue, so they create another scandal or something that is so emotive, like the impeachment, you know. But I'm telling you, as we speak, the elections of 2027, if it goes on, if this tribunal that is being appointed elects the next commissioner, remember that the tribunal is going to propose 3 names to the president to choose the commission, the chairperson. And the chairperson is the one who declares the results. So you have a second term, irrespective of what the Gen Zs are saying.
It's not far-fetched. We've raised that issue, but even before NADCO report started sitting on why the IBC should be picked by the players.
We are saying that they should have people like the EACC sitting on that tribunal because they have the tools to look at whether you're qualified, your integrity issues. They should have the JSC chairperson, and the heads of the institutions are the ones who should sit there, not the representative. If it's the EACC, we have the chairperson. If it's a JSC, we have the chairperson. We have the PSC, the Public Service Commission, we have the chairperson. Why do you need an interreligious council to elect for us as commissioners? What do the religious people have in terms of vetting that can make them credible enough to sit and choose for us the next commissioners?
Integrity, Bob.
Sorry?
They represent integrity.
Integrity is EACC.
Mine as the day's proverb. These proverbs are from the kingdom of Morocco.
Yes. Fill his stomach and he will forget his country.
His stomach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anki Doris has an issue with stomach.
No, I don't have a problem with stomach.
Stomach.
So much. It's okay, Latiff. I'm just saying for the normal Kenyan.
Fill his stomach.
Stomach.
And he will forget.
And
actually, some people say country.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are Kenyans, we pronounce every letter in a word.
Yes. So long as you understand what they're saying,
we're good.
it is okay.
All right.
Yes.
And Bob, what was your interpretation again of this proverb? Fill his stomach and he'll forget his country.
Well, direct translation is that people tend to forget about people who are in positions of responsibility, who will put their interest first before the interest of the people, such that when you have a tender, probably it's a project for road, you'll find it has been over budgeted, you know, so a lot of money is lost in the process. And the projects, you had the Aror and Kimora dams. It's a practical example of fill the stomach and because people will take the money, fill their stomachs, buy good cars, buy properties, and at the expense of the development to the people. That's my interpretation of it.
It's a good one. I want to take you back into something that you said at the very beginning. So, as the FreeKenya movement, you have looked at the Constitution and you think there's some areas of the Constitution that need to be amended.
Correct.
And you've launched a popular initiative.
Correct.
To go across the country to collect signatures for people to support this.
Yes.
What is it that you have a problem with this Katiba of ours?
We actually don't have a problem with it. We want to make it better. It's a good constitution, but it can be made better. For starters, what we have realized has been the biggest issue is the participation of the people in governance. So we have come up with a structure of direct representation. Right now, what we have been relying upon for the last 60 years is indirect representation, whereby we trust the leaders whom we elect to make the right choices on the behalf of people. And that has led to a systemic failure because the system has been captured. So there is no way Parliament is going to execute its mandate as it's supposed to do. All right? So in the absence of, if the structure of the indirect representation has been captured, what we are saying is that we are recreating the state of Kenya. And we're including what we're calling people's governments as a third tier of government. So you have the national government, you have the county governments, and now we have the people's governments. This will be situated in all the 47 counties, and there is a structure from the village level to the county level through which the people now directly interact with government. This
with each government, with national county?
With both the national and the county governments. Actually, the system of the people's government is meant to oversight both the two other levels of government. And since there has been no oversight directly by the people, that's how funds are stolen. Because an MCA will come and say, we are doing a project X that will cost 3 million in the village. We are going to dig for you a borehole. All right? They end up not doing the project. The money has already been taken away. The people have no structure which they can directly express their sovereignty. So what we have done as a Free Kenya Popular Initiative, we took the model of Makueni County, where they had a people's government under Kivutha Kibwana, and we want now to legislate these to be part of our laws, to be part of our structures of governance, so that we have the people's governments working side by side with the county and the national governments. What this will do, it will eradicate corruption. This is the only cure for corruption. There is no other cure you can do. It's by the people themselves oversighting over their own resources, right? Because it will be very difficult for a contractor to get away with money, because the people have to sign the performance contract before the contractor is paid. All right? So once you involve the people, and that's what we're calling, ours is what we're calling quantifiable public participation.
Okay.
So it's not just saying.
It's not just saying it. It's a new structure and a system of governance that we are introducing. That is one. Two, there are other areas that require a popular initiative. For instance...
Bob, I'm sorry, but I need to take you back to this people government structures. And I know you've mentioned that there will be a structure, will oversight the two governments, will have signatories. But I'm curious, though, deeper into that structure, because sometimes the question is of the sustainability and the quality of those structures. If you do not mind, then, to share if there is any sort of bureaucracy within that people's government, or how does that, what are these, could you give us a bit of 2-3 details,
on how it operates?
Yes, on how that operates.
Give the example of Makueni, for instance.
Makueni, for instance. Now, for instance, you take a village setup, because the structure of the people's government starts from the village level, and you go to the cluster, and then you go to the ward level, and then the sub-county, which is a constituency level, and you have the county level. At all these levels, you have a representation of the people. These are drawn for various sectors. You have people from the education sector, from the society. It's the people themselves who will bring forth these persons, because they are within the community.
Right.
If it's in the agricultural sector, energy and all that, professionals, right? So at the village level, you have assemblies. Every Friday, the people gather in that assembly to state that these are the issues that we are having. These are the issues that we want the MP to address. These are the issues that we want the MCA to address. All right? If it's about the finance bill, the bill will be brought to these assemblies. The people's governments will vote. So the MP will go to represent his constituency, whom have already had a chance to interact with either the finance bill or whatever other document that there is. But right now, there is no structured system of direct representation. In your estate where you stay, you have the associations. Those are now what will form the village assemblies, the associations for the estates. When they sit, they deliberate. Now the MCA will come to sit
in the residence
in those associations, in those assemblies, and pick the views from the people and tell them, hey, Bwana MCA, we want this toilet, a road here, a school there, a hospital here. So when he goes to the county assembly, he goes to implement the needs of the people. It is a turnaround. It's a very revolutionary way of doing of structure of governance.
So there's been a concern on the public participation? Sorry?
Yes, because there's no public participation that is done currently. What the county governments do, they book a hall, put some budget there for people to eat. They know what they want, the outcome. So they just put you there in a room for purposes of saying they did a public participation. But that is not public participation.
Bob, does this need to be a constitutional structure?
It has to be.
Can it not just be statutes?
It cannot
establish
be
a law.
For instance, in Makueni, in Makueni today, with a new governor, when he came in, he did not sustain the previous system which Governor Kivutha had put. And that's why we're saying we need to put it as part of our system and structure of governance.
What if Kivutha had taken it to the county assembly and made it Makueni County.
It will only apply in
legislation.
Makueni County. How about Tana River? How about Kisumu?
So take it to the National Assembly
No, we
and
take
make
it.
a public participation law that creates this structure and says that this is how public participation should happen.
You see, for resources to be allocated to that structure, it cannot be by an act of parliament, because we are now restructuring the form of government. And when you're restructuring the form of government, you have to do it through a popular initiative, either through a parliamentary initiative, through a referendum, or a popular initiative. Right? Secondly, we also want to enhance devolution further to the people's governments, right? Take more resources to the counties, perhaps even reduce the number of counties. You cannot do this as an act of parliament, only through a popular initiative. We saw BBI was there, Punguza Mzigo was there. It means that there is need for constitutional amendments. That's why these initiatives have been coming up. The reason why they have not succeeded is because perhaps for technical reasons. BBI was funded by the state, so it was stopped in court. Punguza Mzigo was a political issue which was stopped at the county assemblies level, right? Eric, the only other avenue, if not a referendum, will be a revolution. The only other avenue, if not through a referendum, will be a popular uprising. And I'd rather Kenyans sit together and do what we call a dialogue than we go the Sudan way or the Egypt way.
Okay.
Yes.
People's government is one. What's the other thing that you're pushing for in the popular initiative?
Representation. We want to relook at the issue of representation, both in government in its entirety, how we can have more inclusion of different sectors. For instance, the youth, the Gen Zs now. We are coming up with a system. We have proposed a system, an electoral system that is different from the current one, whereby we are talking of a system that will ensure there is gender balance automatically, all right? A system that will ensure that persons with disabilities, the youth, are also included in the elective process of this country by affirming them, right? So like you'll find what we are suggesting is that, like in Nairobi County, let me say Kajiado East, where you have, Kajiado County, you have 5 constituencies. We're proposing to have a joint ticket such that if you have persons with disability on the same ticket with the youth, either of them from either gender, right? So automatically you don't need to come and nominate people because on the ticket is a balanced ticket, all right? So the political parties will be presenting a ticket that is unified. If it's women rep, the youth representative is a man, there's a women rep, right? Then you have a PWD, right? And there's a PWD, there's a youth rep, there's a women rep, and there's a man, a ticket of 4. So automatically you balance out the issue of gender, right? And you solve the problem of representation. There are other issues that people have. For instance, there is a 1 man, 1 shilling issue. It's something that we think should be brought back to book. How do we have an equitable sharing of resources in this country whereby everybody is included? I think that's a conversation that should continue. And because we are collecting signatures based on a general suggestion, there are 2 ways you can collect signatures, either on a draft bill or on a general suggestion. So for us, we went the general suggestion direction so that after we have the 1 million signatures plus, we shall convene what we are calling a people's dialogue for the people now to engage with our proposals. After that is when we shall do the draft bill and present it to the IBC together with the signatures.
I see clarity on the representation. I want to trust that we, at least each of us, have been in barazas or kampunjes where you'd hear at least one of the Kenyans or 2 say they feel overrepresented in whichever way. We've also had, different voices, experts say we have, like you said, not a bad constitution, a good constitution, including members of parliament who have argued that the problem is we have an expensive constitution based on the number of people we employ and we have to pay. The wage bill, etc. And I'm curious to understand, as you come up with this new representation that will be inclusive, do you think then that you will be able to cater to a solution to the over-representation, or our constitution being expensive based on these positions? Or what really are you going to be doing differently that will not be adding to what some have termed the problem? All right, because you've talked about gender balance automatically. I'm very curious, really, how automatic that would be. Yeah. Or are you also thinking of scrapping off some representative positions to, fuse in or, merge them to one? Maybe a little bit of detail on the representation part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the proposal, rather, is actually to reduce the overall number of representatives, right, so that we don't have to go to the nominations, because when you nominate is when you increase the numbers into parliament. So we come up with a system that does not require people to nominate into parliament. And how is that? What we were doing is that we were looking at the county. For example, Kajiado County has 5 constituencies, right? It means it has 5 members of parliament, right? So of these 5, we allocate as per gender. If you have 5, then you have a youth representative, has to be on that ticket. Then you have a PWD on the same ticket. You have a women, like the women rep, on the same ticket, and you have youth, PWD, and a men, okay? So if you are political party X, you have a joint ticket of 4 on the same ballot paper. Now, if somebody chooses, say, ODM, for instance, the ODM ticket will carry a youth, a woman, a male, and a PWD, all balanced. So in that county, will be represented by a uniformed number of people. You'll have a balance of gender automatically. You don't need to nominate.
But these are 4 different individuals?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So
you're voting for a party?
Yes.
Not for an individual anymore?
Yes. It's a party ticket.
Because currently what you do is you go and you choose you select a name.
Yes.
Right? Whether people have been nominated by parties, so you find on the ballot.
No, it has to be a joint ticket for it to balance.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you do it separately, you end up with the same imbalance. So you can't apply the same formula and expect the same results. You have to change the formula. That is a proposal which Kenyans will have to, and it's the good thing about the referendum we're proposing is a multiple choice referendum, where Kenyans will be able to say no to this and yes to this. Before, they used to have one yes or no blanket referendum. I think that was cleared out by the Supreme Court petition for the BBI, when the judges ruled that you can actually have a multiple choice referendum. So if the issue is not popular with the people, they will just vote no. But if it is popular with Kenyans, they will then pass it through the referendum. That is the strategy. And by so doing, you're keeping a balance and also sanitizing the process at the same time.
The government, including, I think, very in top governance positions, have spoken on communication, and some people have said Kenyans are equally stubborn when it comes to change, as is expected in every social setup. I'm curious on how you're going to win the hearts of these Kenyans. And looking at the population that came out during the protests, I don't know if we're convinced enough in terms of sensitization, because you're saying people power, yeah? People lies with but we also saw certain activists who have also taken to social media and said, I have so many of you following me on social media, but when it's time to physically see you in action, I see none. Drop off the bus early enough. Such conversations are coming up. So these are the same Kenyans that you're looking to make understand this new governance initiative. I'm just curious to understand the plan of engagement. All right.
Yes.
And if you're convinced enough, because, including civic education, etc., funding is important. So how are you going to engage that woman in the grassroots? You've been referring to Kajiado, Turkana, Samburu, to be in line with this vision that you have for the country. So it doesn't look like a central thing for the free movement only, and then you sprinkle it out to Kenyans. How are you going to involve us?
First, we are partnering with various Free Kenya movement is a consortium of various civil society organizations, trade unions, welfare associations, professional organizations. We have political parties, representatives within the movement. So we have a resource, a human resource, a very rich human resource. The social justice movements alone, like for example, the one led by Happy Olal, has tentacles across the entire country, right? Whether it's the Dandora social justice movement, Kibera. So we are part of the NCCPA, which is the National Coalition Committee of the People's Assembly. I'm one of the leaders in it. So through this organizations, they have embraced the referendum, right? So they are using that. We're using that platform for civic education. We're also relying heavily on social media. We have groups across the country which are linked online that we share and disseminate information. We are also going now for the town hall meetings, which we shall be beginning soon. All right, going to different regions across the country to share what we have in the referendum, to tell the people what it means to them and how it's going to change their day-to-day lives. One of the issues we are pushing very hard has been the abolishing taxes on basic and essential commodities. We have listed 15 items that we want to directly enact a law as the people to safeguard the people from overtaxation. We have listed petrol, kerosene, diesel, unga of ugali, unga of chapati, water, electricity, some of these 15 items that we want to...
so the people to bypass parliament?
Yes,
and to
vote
the people are sovereign. To create...
The people are sovereign.
To create the laws directly.
Yes, and we are saying, on these 15 items, the government should never touch them. You can tax anything else, but don't touch these items. And we are making that law as a people.
Okay.
Because our representatives have failed. So
does our constitution allow us to have does the constitution allow us to have these constituent assemblies? The ones you're creating?
The people's government.
That's a constituent assembly. Does our constitution
That's the amendment that he is pushing.
The constitution allows, but it has not created a framework how.
So what you're doing is creating a framework.
We are creating a structure of government that we wanted to be part of this structure of the current government and to be given 10% of the national government resources to operationalize the people's government so that they can be able to undertake the functions which they're meant to do. All right, so for there to be resources funding the governments, there has to be legislation.
Yes.
And we are changing the structure of government, so they cannot do it by an act of parliament. It has to be through a popular initiative.
I now understand why the government is after you.
Thank you. Now you know.
The life of an activist is one that is, full of ups and downs, and no appreciation for the most parts by the many people who see you doing the things that you're doing. Get to a point where they expect you to do it. We've seen people who have expressed frustration. Boniface Mwangi at some point saying, you know what, guys, look, I get up, I go, my children are not sure whether they'll see me at the end of the day. My wife is not sure whether she's with me at the end of the day. And yet, you people, when I come and say I'd like to vie for a seat, you tell me, yeah, kijana ni sawa, lakini wewe chama yako ati ni chama
gani? Ni gani? Wao ndio wanasimamia nini?
Inamaanisha?
Fanya hivi, wewe endelea tu na hiyo kazi unafanya. Iwache tumpatie nani.
And these frustrations, come and go every day. I'm sure you face the same as a person who has chosen to be very, very active in politics, even when you're in a political party and now in the movement as an activist, Free Kenya movement, you face the same. We're seeing the same. You quoted Anki Doris earlier. Morara Kebaso has been ranting, so to speak, directly, actually calling it as it is. He's been ranting on social media, saying he's now feeling unappreciated. He thought there were so many people who follow him on social media are with him in every second of the day, and now he's wondering what's happening. This is going through some phase. If you also think about Kasma Mokaure, he got to a point where he said, you know what, I have looked at what's happening and I've seen, let me go and sit at the feet of Raila Odinga. I will learn and through him, I'll be able to achieve what I think the direction we need to take. As somebody who's been there for long, and you're seeing these young people who'd come out in the Gen Z movement, and they're already expressing frustration, what do you tell them?
First, I would encourage them, because it's not easy for them to come out and stick their neck out. Their peers are somewhere having fun, you know, but they've chosen to live that kind of a lifestyle. It's not easy. I think what they don't know, the young generation, is the tricks that the current system uses to subdue, to change them, you know, to change their thinking. When the protest began, we had so many young people coming out as seemingly leaders, because they have a big following online and otherwise. But as days went on, you could see some of them taking photos with government officials, which means they've already been compromised, right? It's unfortunate, because when I saw, like, for example, my friend Kasmal, we were with him in the same group, which I'm telling you, there's a coalition. He was actually, as a spokesperson, he was a spokesperson of that coalition, the NCCPA. And the following day, I saw him with the Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Former Prime Minister.
My guess was that then he has already betrayed the cause.
Why?
Because of a picture?
The Prime Minister took advantage of the Gen Z protest to position himself and his party through the NADCO report in a pre-arranged broad-based, what they're calling the broad-based government. The Gen Zs went to the streets to call for good governance and accountability, not for a change, not to have the ODM leadership take over and form a government with this current administration that we believe should not be in power even today. Has already failed, you know. So Kasmuel was a representation, was one of the people who are representing the face of the Gen Zs. And so for him to go to seemingly work with the former Prime Minister, I think in the face of the majority of the young people, they've seen this as a betrayal to their cause. Yes, from what I perceive, you know, politics is about perception. And the moment you're seen associating with somebody, I think it shows that is the opposition, is the former opposition leader or the current? I'm not sure, because he's neither in government nor out. We're not sure what to say. Because right now, we don't have an opposition.
Is it?
Right? No, we don't have an opposition. But the opposition now is Kenyans, Bob, the people.
Bob,
is it?
You've been in the trenches for years,
yes,
right?
Yes.
I'm sure by now you have gotten to a point where you see you may, in some instances, just walk for some few kilometers with the enemy just to get closer to the destination that you're seeking, right? Because the enemy has the means to transport you from point A to point B, or whatever case. Or because this is, at least whatever the enemy is doing, is leading 80% towards the destination that you seek to arrive at. This may not necessarily be betrayal. It may be it may be realization. Like I said, we have seen it many times.
If he was going to discuss issues, perhaps he would have gone with a team of other Gen Zs. That's what I'm saying. He went alone. Even myself right now, as the chairman of the FreeKenya movement, if I'm called even by the president of this country to discuss issues like such as this popular initiative, I would not go on my own.
But you would go.
You would go, would you?
I would go with the blessings of the collective, of the people whom we represent. That this is an issue that we need to engage government on this issue, because government is not for Ruto. Government belongs to all Kenyans, including those who oppose the government. You have a right even to be employed in government, even if you oppose the same government, because the government is not for Ruto, it's for the people. And the people include those who criticize and those who support the system. I think it's only in Kenya we have it wrong, that once you're in government, anybody who opposes you should not be part of government. It's a wrong.
It's an enemy.
It's an enemy. That's not how it should be. After the elections, we're supposed to put our differences aside and look at the best people who can lead the country. Yes, and I think that's where the Gen Zs were saying we want a merit-based society. not a tribal-based society. Yes.
The last I checked, and I stand to be corrected, the Gen Zs were leaderless?
Yes,
Tribeless?
yes.
Leaderless?
Yeah,
So
and
they said-
partyless. Partyless now.
Partyless?
We are independent. This
Okay.
movement is independent. And that's why we were in sync with the Gen Zs, because we are also... Partyless means independent.
Okay.
All right? We went in... I vied for Member of Parliament as an independent in the last election. And we formed a coalition of independents under the FreeKenya movement, where we're supporting all other independents. Unfortunately, IBC came with very bad laws towards the elections. And they required independent candidates to produce photocopies of IDs of their supporters alongside the signatures before they can be incorporated into the ballot. We as the FreeKenya movement went to the High Court and we challenged the Elections Act of 2012. Justice Mrima declared that guidelines as unconstitutional, null and void. Chebukati was supposed then to include independent candidates on the ballot, including presidential candidates, Akina Kigame, and so many others. None of them got to the ballot as a result of that law. Because IBC went to the Court of Appeal to appeal the ruling of the High Court. They got a stay order, and up to today,
And the matter's
2024, they've never appealed. Up to today, they've never put an appeal. Yet they blocked presidential candidates from accessing the ballot. And we have a case that we won. That's where they're taking me.
You know,
Because even in the next election, the same law
Same will
will
apply.
apply.
you know, Bob, there's something when you're talking about...
And as we speak, the Court
Yes.
of Appeal has refused, because we have done an application to the Court of Appeal for them now to reverse the stay, execution of stay, so that the High Court ruling can be enforced, and thereafter remedies can take place. First and foremost, reparations for those people
For the
who are
candidates
locked out
who are-
of the ballot as a result of this law, which you appealed and have never appealed. Two, assuming we have a new IBC tomorrow and we have by-elections, it means the independent candidates will still be subjected to the same laws as a result of the stay. So these are serious issues that people don't know about. And we are pushing this on public interest.
Bob,
On
there's,
public interest.
there's something I want you to consider. When you say you find individuals who declared they were Gen Zs, some who were leaders, and then some were seen visiting individuals who it is said are in bed with the government, others were seen taking pictures. And what then was concluded that these people had essentially defected. What I want you to consider is this. What makes you think that they were ever with you? What makes you think that from the very beginning they were actually supporters of the government? I'm simply saying that when a movement is as big as yours, how do you know exactly where everyone that you have there stands? Because the government being what it is, and a government like ours, given how it has functioned from colonial times to now, one of the things it does very well is infiltrate groups like yours.
Sure.
and infiltrate it effectively. At the same time, City, I also see it at different, similar, but also I veer off in some areas where people are different. It's the same thing that we're saying, Gen Z should form a party. They cannot form a party. They are not a homogeneous group. There are people who are divergent views and divergent approaches.
But they have agreed that they're partyless.
Yeah, and they've already said that they're partyless.
So why would one go to form a party like Morara?
But
and the Gen Zs are telling him we are partyless. I think it's
those who are
Is it-
partyless don't have to join that party.
Yeah.
You see, that's the thing. People have said we are partyless when we are coming out. We are not coming out for these protests representing any political party or any political party ideal.
Yes.
And we are finished with the issue of the finance bill. That doesn't mean that we shall remain partyless. We shall never join a party. We shall always just remain free and there are people who may decide that, you know what, I think.
Do we need a political
I
party?
think I can organize.
Do we need a political
There are
party
people
to
who
have
may
change?
there are
need
people who may
structures.
organize like yourselves as this collective, and you call yourselves NCCAP. There are people who don't look at NCCAP and see it as representative enough.
Yeah.
Others may think that a political party may be a vehicle. Others may think that joining an existing political party, I can join ODM, I can join Jubilee, I can join NARC Kenya, I can join KANU, they can join.
You know, the reason why the Gen Zs have rejected the political parties is because of the structure of the same political parties. In fact, we need political party reforms in this country more than we need police reforms.
And you can do that by joining the parties and enforcing them.
Inside out.
Let me tell you, I've been to those parties at the highest level. I was the NEC member of ODM for 9 years. The way the political structure has been engineered, you cannot change it.
You see, you know that because you've been in there.
You cannot change the structure as it is, I'm telling you.
You know that because you've been in there. Those who haven't don't know it.
That's why I was like, what is he going to do there?
And I'm also curious. I wanted to say two things here. And I appreciated when Latiff said people are different. Now, there is a Kenyan. Me, Anki, Doris, I'm a Kenyan. I'm not in any political party, neither am I moving any movement. Okay, moving any movement, okay.
No, but, statement, that one.
Yeah. But I have my own views, and there are things I can do a petition. I think if I want to petition any particular,
yes, you can.
Yes, as Anki, I don't need to be in your movement to do that.
Sure,
all right.
sure.
If, for example, this activists you're associating with the Gen Zs are acting in their personal capacity, they have not said I am representing. I'm going to meet this particular leader as a representation of the Gen Zs. They're doing it in their right as a Kenyan. Individual capacities in the vision and what they think aligns with what they believe in as who they are. Why would it be interpreted as compromised personalities at that point in time? That's question number one. Number two, I seek to understand how you are the chair of a movement. Then it means that there are people around you. You have a structure within your movement. And even as you speak in here, a Kenyan in the grassroots that doesn't understand the difference between you as a chair of a movement and Raila Odinga as a leader of a party. What's the difference, though? If not the little monies that you get as a political party, which you do not get, what is different in your structure within your movement that is so different and in your mobilization from what politicians are doing within their parties?
ODM is a movement, you know that?
Orange Democratic Movement, correct. And then registered as a party?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so what is the difference?
So the difference first is in the ideology. We are pushing a very radical, a very revolutionary ideology of people power. Okay? Secondly, the way we are structured, composed, the composition of the movement. A movement is not like a political party. A movement is organic. It's amorphous. We have representation from various sectors of the society. So we have people from the Nurses Association of Kenya. The president is there. You have people from the dentist, from the Doctors Association. We have people from the trade unions. They're there. They're giving us their issues. Okay, they're bringing their memorandums. This is what we want to change.
And those people may even belong to political parties.
Of course, yes.
Individually.
We have individuals from both even UDA under the FreeKenya movement. Because we are fighting collectively as a people towards a certain purpose that transcends beyond religion, transcends beyond tribe, transcends beyond political persuasions. Because when we talk about taxes, to abolish taxes on unga, it goes beyond any tribe, whether you're Muslim or Christian. When you're talking about reducing the cost of fuel, it affects all Kenyans unilaterally, whether you're in government or not. So the movement is more powerful because it encompasses the several sectors of society. A political party is people who are aligned to a particular political persuasion only.
Okay.
And they don't take views from the other side. In fact, if we were in different parties, like say now, for example, let me say X and Y, we would not be seated next to each other because of our political differences. But as an independent, I can sit with somebody, like I said, even in government, as long as we are discussing the issue that is collectively. So it's a unity of purpose. In brief,
you do know, Bob, that the very thing you're saying is what almost any party in this particular country would say at some point or the other. In fact, I was listening to it, I'm thinking, but it sounds very much like
sounds familiar.
No, it sounds like what ODM used to say. The only difference I hear in what you're saying is this: it's not a political party. You've allowed other people to join you in their capacity and the positions that they are in towards a common goal.
Yes.
So essentially, you are working towards a government of national unity.
Broad-based.
Yes.
Definitely, we are an
Yes.
alternative government.
Yes.
Not we are working towards.
Yes.
We are not in the opposition. We are
Yes.
calling ourselves an alternative government.
That's
Yes.
what I have
And
to-
we are forming a coalition of progressive forces that will take over this country in the near future.
So essentially, we are saying that since the political leadership in this country has gotten through an election, that come 2027, you're positioning yourself to have people who will represent the movement.
In all levels of governance.
on the
Yeah.
ballot.
Yes.
Ballot.
And the common thread is the common thinking.
From
Yes.
presidential.
Yes. Yes.
And the common thread is the common thinking.
Yes.
Yes.
So they all have a common purpose.
Yes.
Okay. Those who will be vying under UDA, they'll all have common thinking, common purpose.
Correct.
So you're a party, they're a party. Just that you're not registered under the Political Parties Act.
You're independent.
You're a collective.
We're a
And that's the
collective.
same thing I was saying. The Gen Z in their millions cannot be in the same boat.
They won't be.
They will not be. You'll find those who have a different approach. Say, for example, the Inject Party, registered Morara Kebaso is among the leaders of that party, and they're saying, we are seeking a certain
We're not a
thing."
party. We're a movement.
Okay.
I want that to be
I
very
get
clear.
it. I completely get it.
Yes.
The Inject Party,
Yes.
right, that is pushing for a certain ideology.
Yes.
NAC Kenya that has been there for many years and is pushing for a certain idea.
Sure.
And then you have a movement such as the Free Kenya movement that is pushing for a certain idea. And you have the social justice networks coming together as a collective and they're pushing for a certain idea. It's all about organizing, politically organizing. None of them is better than the other, is worse than the other.
All right. Yeah.
True.
Bob, true?
Not true.
Okay.
Not true. Eric, first and foremost, we have cut ourselves out from the rest by so saying we're pushing for a new kind of leadership in the country. One that does not include those who have been in the leadership of this country for the past years, both in opposition and in government. Tunafagia wote. So it's revolutionary in its kind. And Eric, there is no other alternative. Unless you tell me of another alternative.
Bob, let me give you an
You're the
example.
alternative.
We are the alternative.
I want to give you an example, Bob. It wasn't a movement, it was a political party. Well, it began as a movement in those early days. I'm talking about ANC. Now,
South Africa.
Yes. And they came and forget. But in their case, the more things change, the more they remain the same. You see, that is always the problem.
Have you heard the others talking about a people's government? Have you heard of the other parties or the coalitions saying that we are going to initiate a new structure of government called the people's government?
No, we
It's a
haven't.
very clear
No,
distinction.
they don't
from
use
our-
those same words, but
They
they give
use-
the impression that they are doing something on behalf
Of the people, for the
It's
best
still
interests of
indirect.
the
That
people.
is still indirect representation.
But you are saying it directly.
Direct representation. That is a very clear ideological difference between us and them.
Okay.
Yes,
Time is up. But
Ideologically.
Yes.
So the difference is ideological.
it's ideological
Very good.
If
and
you're
also
not-
generational.
Very
All right.
good.
I'm just curious. It's one of the reasons you're here. Your story. It's just it's given me chills a bit. But how are you going to do it differently? Because this is not the first time we're seeing abductions. This is not the first government that's given us this. And time is up. But maybe in the next conversation, how will you do it differently? Because these are narratives we've heard over and over again. But of course, quick recovery psychologically for you. And thank you for being out here in the open to speak about it.
Can I tell Kenyans something? I would like every listener to kindly check our website. That's www.freekenya.co.ke. You can sign the referendum online. We're looking for 1 million signatures so that we can initiate progressive changes to this country. And we ask all Kenyans to support us in this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Bob Njagi, chairman of the Free Kenya movement. Lawrence Mushiri says, I love this guy.
I saw that.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.